Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derrick and I'm joined today by RogersBase to give our takes on these recent Pokemon rumors that have popped up about Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. And yeah, Andre, John, and Ash already gave their thoughts on it, but a few more details have come out, namely the website URLs that make this seem all the more likely to happen. But before we get into any of that, Roger, what's your take on this whole Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee thing?
This is real. I mean, this is the realest leak I've ever seen in my life. The second Sarah B reported on it, I was like, oh, okay, there's actually some legitimacy to this. And then today, literally this morning, that Project Eevee Twitter account, like the official Eevee Twitter account from the Pokemon Company, tweeted out a video of employees at the Pokemon Company walking through the aisles being like, just a normal day, and right behind them was a giant Eevee and a giant Pikachu, which to me was them acknowledging the leak and being like, alright, just wait a week or so. Like, you guys are getting this announcement. Just like, we know it's out there now, just wait a little bit. Masuda even put that picture up there with like the Pikachu dressed as Luigi with the Eevee and Pikachu in front of it. It's like, even the developers of the game are giving hints that this leak is real, which is unprecedented in terms of a Nintendo game. So, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I don't know if it's them saying, hey, the leak is real, or just this is what they planned all along. Because even before this leak became a thing, they were pushing Eevee much harder than ever before. They kept having pictures.
Oh, yeah.
They kept having it paired with Pikachu. The Chapter 0 thing for Detective Pikachu was between Eevee and Detective Pikachu. Like, they have been positioning Eevee as this second mascot all of a sudden for a while now. So it's kind of funny to see that it's actually all been a potential lead up, and honestly, it's probably real, to this whole Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee Pokemon game on the Switch, which I'm okay with. I like Eevee. Eevee's cool.
I do too. I think Eevee's great. I mean, Eevee was what your rival chose in the original Pokemon Yellow. You get Pikachu, and then Gary got Eevee. So, I mean, it made sense to then, if they're going to do a remake of Yellow and have it be two versions, or a reboot, or whatever they're going to call this, that Eevee would be the other starter. But yeah, I'm totally down for this. I've always been an Eevee fan. Who knows? Maybe Sakurai is going to put Eevee in the next Smash Brothers, give him 8 different transformations, or he could turn in all the evolutions. That'd be great.
Well, that'd be wild.
Push Eevee as much as you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just as a quick breakdown, in case anybody has not seen the details for this Pokemon Let's Go whole thing, it's apparently a remake of Pokemon Yellow for the Switch, and Red and Blue play a role in the story. But you and your rival are brand new trainers. So even though it's a remake, it seems to be more of a pseudo sequel to it, from what I can tell. Pokemon.
Which I wanna say this right now, by the way. If you guys go back and listen to that GameXplain discussion we did like a year ago about Pokemon, who was the one guy who said the next mainline game is going to be a Red and Blue 2 that takes place in Kanto? Ya boy, right here, talking about how Kanto is going to be the next game, and people were laughing at me saying, oh, it'd be cool if maybe Lily was the main character, but no way we're going back to Kanto. I just wanted to say I told you so, because it doesn't get to happen very often unless I'm making some weird random Bayonetta predictions, but told you so.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, in some cases, in some ways it makes complete sense. In other cases, it's weird because they've never started a new generation of consoles with not the next gen. Like, they started each one with a new Pokemon generation. So this is a little different, but in a lot of ways, I'm kind of glad this is not a new Pokemon generation, and I'll get into that more as we go along. But
sure.
There are some really cool features here that Pokemon will follow you once again. Everybody's wanted that. The Poke Ride from Sun and Moon are still in the game. And the online has a hub for players. Where it gets weird and a little, I don't know about this, is that there's going to be Pokemon Go integration. Catching Pokemon works like in Go, which I think is a terrible idea, but we'll go into that. The rewards in-game and in-Go, for linking the two together, and there's a new accessory that can be used both in both Go and the games. It's being announced soon and releasing this year. So here's the thing. Before we get into the Go stuff, everything I've seen here, I'm okay with. This sounds awesome.
I completely agree with you. I think Kanto was the only generation that wasn't remade since the physical and special split. And because of that, I'm super stoked to see what a modern version of Kanto is going to be like. I ultimately think this Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee thing is an incredibly smart nostalgia play by the Pokemon Company, because this is the first mainline home console Pokemon RPG, so they're going to want to wrangle in as many of the Switch-owning adults and Pokemon Go players as possible, because kids are always going to eat up Pokemon no matter what, that's fine. But they want to reach that older demographic. They want to get the people who maybe didn't play Pokemon for a decade, picked up Pokemon Go and thought it was good. And also, they have not been shying away from pushing the Switch more towards an adult audience than a child audience. All the commercials feature adults now, and obviously nothing is confirmed until the Pokemon Company makes their official announcements, but like, as somebody who has not been thrilled with the direction the main series has been taking in the past couple years with like the dimension shifting, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, Aura stuff, this is exactly the type of thing that I feel like is going to reel me back in full speed. And I know there's a lot of other people out there who maybe played Gen 1 and Gen 2 and kind of got off the Pokemon train, and I've stayed on it. I love Pokemon. And I'm also not really that concerned about the Pokemon Go catching aspect. The thing that would concern me is if they change the battle system and they simplify the battles themselves to be more like Pokemon Go. Then I would be concerned. But if this is just some added way to catch Pokemon where, like, if you're docked, you could use motion control to throw your Pokeball, or if you're playing in handheld mode, use the touchscreen, kind of like in Pokemon Go, to actually catch them, that's fine to me. Like, that, who cares? Like, you know, normally you go through a menu and you press Pokeball and you catch a Pokemon. If the only difference is that now you use the touchscreen or you toss it with a Joy-Con, who cares? Like, if the battle system is still the same and still refreshing, and if these rumors are true and they're building an online hub to play against other players, I don't think they're going to simplify the system all that much. And so for that reason, I'm not really that concerned. I'm looking at this like I would any of the other remakes, and I'm excited for it. Pokemon Yellow was one of my favorite games. I grew up with Pokemon Yellow. Following Pokemon coming back, you're telling me, Derek, that I get to have my Lickitung follow me again? It's time. It's time. If I get my Lickitung following me again, that's all I've wanted. And even like the Pokeride stuff is great. I feel like in Sun and Moon, the introduction of that, getting rid of the HMs and having Pokeride instead, that's going to be exciting. Like, what do you think the Pokeride Pokemon are going to be? We pretty much already know Lapras would probably be the surfing one, but like, are we going to get a Scyther to cut bushes for us? Well, how is that going to work? Are we going to get a Charizard to fly us again? What's going on?
I mean, there's a lot of possibilities here they can pull from. And there's, I mean, even like, yeah, we're back in Kanto, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be just the base 150. They're going to add in all the other Pokemon in there as well. Like we saw that with Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and even Gold and Silver, where those, you know, Johto Pokemon were in there. So they're going to mix them all together. They're going to toss in some other Pokemon. It's going to be heavily towards first 150, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, that's fine. It's Kanto. That's what it's sort of all about. Catching, you make a good point. The catching aspect of Go is not that big of a deal. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but as long as you still battle them, weaken them, and you have a better chance of catching them, a little tossing minigame to catch a Pokemon, not a big deal. If they mess with the battling at all, though, if they've changed anything about that to be more like Go, that is a huge mistake. Go is not
completely
fun to play. Go is. I'll put this right out. Right, Go is not a good game. It's a great social experience. It has a great addictive quality to it. But as a game itself, it sucks. It's boring. It's buggy. It's not interesting. It's just, it gets carried along by the Pokemon name so much because of that. But the ideas there are good. The social aspect is good. It does really get that part behind you. And the whole fact of like you getting, there's integration with Go in some way, and you get rewards for linking them together, and accessory can be used between all of them. That's not a big deal to me. That just sort of reminds me of like a modern Pokewalker from Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where you could, you know, walk around, catch special Pokemon in there, and then transfer them to Heart Gold and Soul Silver. That doesn't bug me at all.
And that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we're able to transfer the Pokemon we caught in Go into the game right away, that'd be awesome. And I think, like, I don't want to set my expectations too high for this game, but I'm thinking if this is the big 20th anniversary Pokemon game, because 1998, Pokemon came out in North America, now we're going to get, 2018, we're going to get a new Pokemon game, seemingly, if this comes out this year. I feel like we might even get Johto as a second region, sort of like what happened with Johto as Kanto, and that I could already visualize the final battle of this game, because they brought up Red and Blue in that, like, little leak. Dude, imagine if the final battle of this game remember how like in Gold and Silver you had a red at the top of Mount Silver? Mm-hmm. Instead of red at the top of Mount Silver, it's a double battle with red and blue at the top of Mount Silver. And then you have the orchestrated music and it's in HD? Like, how could anybody think about that and be like, I'm not excited about that? If you're a Pokemon fan, if you grew up with Pokemon, I just like, that's so exciting to me. Seeing Kanto in HD, seeing what Saffron City is going to look like, what the mysterious dungeon's going to look like, just like, there's so many things here that I would absolutely love and I think they could nail. It really just comes down to if they simplify the battle system too much and if they simplify capturing too much. But again, if the act of capturing is just the same as it was in Go, where you toss a Pokeball with either touch control or motion control, I will be completely fine with that. That is not going to bother me. And based on what they've already been saying about how there's going to be this online hub, or at least what's been rumored, that says to me that they're still going to push towards that competitive audience. And I mean, they've been doing the Pokemon World Championships every single year for the past like however many years. I don't think they're just going to automatically alienate the competitive aspect of Pokemon. I think they'll obviously keep that in. And if this is the first mainline Pokemon game in a home console, I don't think they're going to screw it up in the way that I think everybody is fearing they're going to screw this up. And I also kind of feel like it's too early for the next generation anyway. I saw a lot of people thinking we're going to go right into the next gen. I feel like it's still kind of too early, right? Like if we get the next gen, this might be built, this like Let's Go game, might be built off the engine from Sun and Moon, but just in HD. And then the next generation will be like the actual real full next games with all the new Pokemon, and those will be coming out in like a year and a half, 2 years, whenever. And that's fine. Like getting a remake in between Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Moon, and then this is totally okay with me.
Oh yeah, that's typically what happens. It's just most people are
exactly.
expecting Gen 4 to be the one to get remade. And like just
But I still kind of feel like, do you think, not to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
Don't you think if they're going to make another generation, they start with the smart play, with the nostalgia play, they do Gen 1 first, then they make the actual next generation of Pokemon in like a year and a half, whatever. Switch, I'm imagining, is not going anywhere anytime soon. It's still their main console. There's lots of people. They obviously make Pokemon games well into the lifespan of these other systems. They could make a next generation and then remake Diamond and Pearl off of the new engine they make for the new generation. That could still very well happen on the Switch. I don't think them creating this Let's Go Pikachu or Eevee thing is necessarily saying we're never going to get an HD remake of Diamond and Pearl on the Switch.
Yeah, I actually agree with that because it's been pointed out even in the past that it's been a longer time frame between the release of Fire Red and now than the release of the original Gen 1 and the Gen 1 remakes.
Right, right.
It's been longer, and it's crazy to think about that. And you talking about the engine, about how it's basically going to be a refined Sun and Moon engine, which was already pushing the 3DS. That seems completely plausible because we had that other kind of leaked image of a trainer riding a Lapras, and it looked just sort of like a slightly better looking Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I can completely buy that that's this game, and it's just going to be a better looking version of that, which, again, I'm fine with. I like the look of Sun and Moon. I think
I do too.
It's a sort of realistic looking if they open it up and really branch out Kanto and sort of make it just this place that you really want to explore while still maintaining what you remember about it and just seeing like what's changed in the years, because that was a lot of fun in the original Gold and Silver, seeing what changed between the regions. And I think there's so much potential with that, seeing even with not a dedicated new engine to show off Pokemon in this HD in the best way. That's fine. Pokemon's never been the best looking games ever. Like they've always been good enough, and they've gradually gotten better, but they've always been a step behind just about everything else out there. And it makes sense for them to, like, again, go back to Gen 4. Gen 4 looks pretty good on the DS, but then you look at Gen 5 after they got some experience with the system. Gen 5 looks incredible compared to Gen 4.
Yes.
And same goes for Gen 6 and 7, where X and Y looks pretty good, definitely a step up from Gen 5, but Gen 7, holy crap. So, again, it makes sense to, hey, let's cut our teeth on the Switch with this remake, and then do Gen 8 and blow everybody's mind.
Exactly. And that's how I feel this is probably going to end up going, which is why I don't understand why so many people are concerned. Again, like, I understand if you're concerned about the battle system, because I'm right there with you. I think everybody's right there with you. If you're one of the people going, dude, if they add the battle system from Pokemon Go, this is going to be a mess. I'm right there with you. But if they literally just do the catching aspects and every other part of this rumor is true, and it's like basically a reboot / remake / sequel where Red and Blue are characters, but it takes place like later on. Like, is this going to take place parallel to Sun and Moon? Because, spoiler alert, if you haven't beaten it by this point, at the end of Sun and Moon, Lily and Gladion end up going to Kanto in their respective versions. In Ultra Sun, I think it's Gladion, and the original is Lily. So it's like, who knows? We might end up seeing Gladion and Lily in these new games too. They might end up showing up in Kanto. How cool would that be?
That'd be
they
awesome.
End up showing up in Kanto. What if they're the new champion? Because Red and Blue wouldn't be the champion anymore. They'd be chilling for you on the top of Mount Silver. You get to the end of the Elite Four and it's Lily. Like, what? That'd be incredible.
Oh, it'd be so cool. And even just, I mean, taking an aspect of Pokemon Go and actually being able to make something really fun out of it, we're talking about an online hub. What if they take the whole, everybody like fighting over control of a gym and put that as an aspect of the online hub where you guys can team up to each other and maintain a gym and have other players challenge it and see if you can maintain your gym, or something to that effect where you just have that community aspect of challenging each other and trying to like maintain something.
I love it. I love that.
So
yeah,
that's the weird thing. There's so much potential here, but there's also so many ways this can go wrong.
Yeah. Realistically, I mean, this is probably real. This is probably the realest leak that you guys have ever reported on. I mean, this feels like a done deal at this point. And I feel like if we're going to see it, we're probably going to see it before E3. Because traditionally, Pokemon Company has always announced their games before E3, but not at E3. And I would not be shocked to see this game at E3, but I don't think it's going to be announced there. I think it's probably going to be announced before the end of the month or in the very early part of June, maybe the week before E3. And so we're not going to have to wait that long to find out what this game is going to look like or when this game is coming out. And so I feel like, just like wait and see. You got a week and a half to wait. Just wait a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? It's not going to be that big of a deal.
It seems like, according to Emily Rogers' blog post, there seems like a very good chance that it's going to get announced by the end of May. And it makes sense. Get it out there. Get people used to it. Do a blowout at E3 to get, again, just play more of it. Get people used to the new systems in play. See how it works with Go. Get those people interested. Just to have that integration. See what happens there. It's going to be interesting to see how they try to sell this to the more traditionalist Pokemon fans. Like, I mean, in some ways that it's an uphill battle. In another way, it's the first Pokemon game on a console, like a true Pokemon game on a console. That's not it's not more of a stadium. It's not like the Coliseum games where it's more of it's its own sort of unique thing as far as catching. Like, no, you're actually catching, raising, and battling Pokemon as if it's a traditional game. If they keep that aspect there, people are going to flock to this game like crazy, and it's bringing it back to Kanto, making a lot of the changes and fixes that they had from Sun and Moon. There's a lot of ways this can go right. But again, if it's too much like Go and the battle system is completely messed up, it's going to be garbage.
Yeah, and I mean, I also think it's a really smart move of them to remake Yellow and not Red and Blue, because Red and Blue's remakes were technically Fire Red and Leaf Green, so this is their way to loop around being like, well, we didn't remake the same game twice, we're making Yellow this time. And Yellow had so many improvements over the original game. Yellow had the surfing Pikachu minigame. Please bring that back in HD. Please. That was so much fun. They ended up, you were able to get Bulbasaur and Charmander and Squirtle all in Yellow version because they were all in-game events. And now that we're in like the modern online era where they can update with like events in-game, could you imagine if there was like an in-game online event where you go outside the SSN and you use strength on the truck and then Muse underneath it? Like, they could do so many unique things. Like, oh my god. I'm frothing at the mouth thinking of the ideas that they could throw into this game. And again, I think it is so smart to go back to the original generation because, again, I'm a diehard Pokemon fan. I've played every generation, every game. I love Pokemon. I know all the new Pokemon. I've kept up with the series. But there are a lot of people who have always wanted to go back and play Pokemon, but now see there's like 800 or 700 monsters or whatever and going, you know what, this is maybe a little too much for me. I remember when it was like 150. And yeah, even if they end up adding in a lot of the new Pokemon, which I think they will end up doing, especially because Go is already introducing new generations, I still feel like people will be more willing to give it a try if it is a little bit more casual in the way that like you either catch Pokemon or even like by referencing those Gen 1 Pokemon that you know and love. Seeing Charizard, and Venusaur, and Blastoise all in HD. You're going to have a lot of those people who grew up in 1998 who, again, haven't played a Pokemon game in a while, maybe haven't played a Nintendo system in a while, picked up the Switch because obviously Breath of the Wild and Smash Brothers is coming out and there's all these great games on it. It's this hugely successful system. And they're like, oh man, Pokemon games are on my TV system now? This is great. And they end up downloading Pokemon or playing it, and they fall in love with the series all over again. I mean, for the longest time, they've been appealing sort of behind closed doors to adults. They've obviously been marketing these games toward children, but the hardcore demographic of players who play Pokemon online are actually people over the age of 18. And so I think as a nostalgia play to those people, and to players who haven't played it in a long time, this is their safest bet for the first mainline home console RPG.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement. Like, I think there's a lot of ways this could go right, and we'll see. I'm not sure. It's completely superficial, but what do you make of the names? Like, obviously they're playing into the Go angle by calling it Let's Go right. Pikachu and Eevee, but I'm not sure if I'm a fan of those names. They seem like
whatever, man. So long as we don't end up getting dimension twisting time travel BS that we got in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon and in Oris, if we stay away from that garbage, then I'm fine. That's like, I am somebody who loved Sun and Moon and wanted to love Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon so badly. And I think that game was still a really well put together game. I'm not bashing the game or saying that it was bad, but I do think one aspect that it really failed was it took the story beats from Sun and Moon and tried adding a bunch of things to them and trying to make it more complicated and adding in like the dimension twisting stuff. And I think ultimately it ruined what the charm of Sun and Moon was in the first place.
Oh, completely agreed. It was not the dimension shifting. It was changing keeping a lot of the early story beats and then changing the later story beats where you got paid off for that stuff. So now you have these weird moments where certain characters are completely ruined or made pointless. And
what is Lusamine in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon? Like, what is that character even?
Exactly. Like you can almost agree with what she's trying to do. Like, yeah, what do I care about this one Pokemon when I need to save all the world from the Crozma?
Exactly. So I feel like they do need to dial it back a little bit. I think they've gone a little too far in that direction, and now it's like, all right, reel that back in a little bit. Hopefully there's no time travel or dimension shifting in this Let's Go game. Hopefully it's simple and fun, and you get to go through the original region again, but you get to see how everything has evolved over the years. You maybe get to see some new Pokemon. I listened to the other discussion that you guys did, the one that Andre did, and I love the idea that there's Cantonian forms. I think that's great. That was one of my favorite things in Sun and Moon, and one of the biggest disappointments in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is that they didn't build upon the Alolan forms, which were so unique and cool and breathed new life in a lot of the classic Pokemon without actually building out the Pokedex too much. And I think if they ended up doing that for maybe Pokemon from the newer generations, if we got Cantonian forms of Alola Pokemon, or some of the other Pokemon from the, Gen 2, Gen 3, whatever, that would be really cool. I would love to see that.
Oh yeah, it'd be so neat to see what they actually do with some of that stuff, and I'd love to see it. Like, that's, again, there's so much potential, and I just want to see exactly what they're going to show with this. Like, the way they reveal this game is going to be so important for people's first impressions, because if they knock it out of the park, you're sold. People are going to be totally down with it. If there's something just a little off and maybe not the way you quite expect, and it doesn't look good it doesn't look like a good idea, then you can have an uphill battle to get people convinced to actually try it out. And that's exactly what happened with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where they didn't communicate what the heck the game actually was, and nobody really knew what to really think about it. So
yeah,
it's going to be a very, very tricky process. But the funny thing is, it's Pokemon on the Switch. It's going to do well.
Right. So I'm curious, what aspects of Kanto would you like to see fixed in these remakes? Like, what are things from the original games that you remember that you were like, oh, I really wish that this was streamlined, or something that I'd really like to see what's happened to it over the course of the past couple of years? Like, is there anything that stands out to you?
I mean, the funny thing is that just the normal process of games have fixed a lot of things. Like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with all the HM stuff, and like, oh, cool, we have Poké Ride, or I wish the bag was bigger, that kind of stuff. Like, it's all these just natural improvements that they've done to Pokemon over the years. If they're integrated into these remakes, they're fine. As far as revisiting things, I'd love to see new gym leaders. Some classic ones, some new ones to mix things up. I'd love to see, how they put a radio tower in Lavender Town? In Gold and Silver. Yeah. I'd love to see that have a little subplot about the radio tower being haunted now because of what they did.
Oh, I would love that!
Really play up the spookiness angle of that, because they've done that really well with like the Ghost Girl all the time.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to see that.
So I think that'd be really cool. Maybe find even more research about the history of Mewtwo, or who knows, maybe Team Rocket comes back and we're seeing more of like their origins, or what inspired Giovanni to do all this stuff, or maybe Silver has started his own Team Rocket and trying to be better than his old man. Who knows?
Oh my god. See, these are all amazing ideas. Like, this is why I want this game so bad. Like, even imagining what Safari Zone is gonna look like in HD is just odd. Like, or Cinnabar Island with the volcano, and like seeing the legendary birds, catching Articuno and the Seafoam Islands, and going to the power plant with Zapdos. Like, I think the Pokemon Company's been doing a really good job of making cutscenes in their games recently. I think Sun and Moon had some really great cutscenes. Could you imagine like an HD spooky cutscene where you go into the power plant and everything's dark, but you just see these sparks every once in a while, and then you hear like Zapdos' cry and he flies over you, and your trainer looks up and then suddenly he flaps his wings down and screams, and lightning turns everything on. Like, oh my god. Mm-hmm. And if they bring back trainer customization along with everything else too, it's over. Got to. If they take the trainer customization from X and Y, the Poké Ride from Sun and Moon, the following Pokemon from Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and the online play from Gen 4, it's over. This has the potential to be one of the best overall packages of Pokemon ever made. Yeah, it's just that the Pokemon Go angle could screw it all up.
Exactly. Do the storyline from, they have the great storyline from Gen 5 and Gen 7, so...
Yeah.
Man. I hope. My fingers are crossed, man. I really hope this is good. Like, I'm not one to disregard something as soon as I see it, as far as it's how good it might be. I'll disregard rumors
I know.
As soon as I see it.
If I wait until I actually play the game, and then I'll give it a chance. And then when I play something like Star Fox Zero or Paper Jam, then I go, oh, okay, this isn't for me.
Yeah, exactly.
But I play it first.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I think as long as the Go aspect does not screw things up, this could be really good. And I feel like I'm repeating myself too much now, but so yeah. Well, any other final thoughts on Pokemon Let's Go rumors?
I think this is definitely going to happen, and I have a good feeling about it. And I think people who are worried should not be worried until we find out more about the battle system, and then you should be worried. But until then, have faith. I do not think that Pokemon is going to screw up the opportunity for the first ever mainline Pokemon RPG on a home console. I think they're smarter than that. I trust in them. I think with Masuda-san even teasing it, and everybody who seems really excited over at the Pokemon Company right now, I don't know. I have faith in this game. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see if that faith is rewarded, but I think that covers it for our Pokemon rumor discussion, so thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And Roger, where can they find you at?
You guys can find me on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, and on Instagram as RogersBase. And if you go check out my YouTube channel right now, I just uploaded a video on my most wanted Smash Brothers characters. There may or may not be a Pokemon on that list. Who knows? Go check it out.
Is it Eevee? Is it Eevee?
Watch the video! Watch the video!
There you go. And of course, make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Pokemon and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.
#Team Lickitung.